Welcome to our webinar today, where we will be talking about reducing agent burnout while increasing CSAT through AI-driven intent and custom bots. And I'm pleased to say today we have Paymentshield with us. Paymentshield is one of the leading UK insurance intermediaries. And a bit of housekeeping before we get started. So today's webinar will last 45 minutes, including Q&A at the end. So please feel free to submit your questions to the Q&A box, and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. And if we don't have time to respond to all of your questions today, we will follow up via email. And this webinar is being recorded and available on demand. Now, today's agenda, a little bit about Paymentshield. So as I mentioned, Paymentshield is one of the leading UK insurance intermediaries. And during COVID, Paymentshield were finding that they were struggling with the growing number of customer inquiries. And some of these challenges are quite common for other companies as well. For example, agents having to answer too many phone calls or emails, struggling to keep up with the number of requests. And also the agents were working too many hours. They were feeling really overloaded and burnt out. And the clients in turn were then forced to sit in a telephonic queue for an extended amount of time and wait for multiple days for email responses. And Paymentshield was not able to offer outside of normal working hours support to its clients, leading to long wait times to get an answer and not being able to get an answer straight away. So by adopting digital capabilities that automate the support journey, Paymentshield decreased resolution time and ultimately improved customer satisfaction. And I know to some, automation may sound like a scary word, but there are many smart automation features that can make agents' life easier, as well as help manage the whole customer experience, helping maximize agent time and collect information to respond to customers' queries faster. Also, while all simultaneously making the end user happier without them having to provide as much information details up front. Automation done well will improve your quality of support and enhance the ability to provide better support for customers. Now, today on the call, we have myself. I'm Elisa Streifler. I'm a Senior Customer Success Manager here at HelpShift, based in the UK. And from Paymentshield, we have Liz Martin and James Scholes. I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Hi, yes, thank you, Alyssa. I'm Liz Martin. I've been at Paymentshield for 13 years now, and I've been a customer advocacy for the past probably about 8 years. So my responsibilities are for heading up the operational support team. So any of the departments that support our frontline facing colleagues and be able to deliver excellent customer service. So our customer care team, governance, operational change. And I'd say to sum up my role in general, it really is about advocacy. So it's ultimately to fly the flag for our customers and ensure their voices are heard within the business to drive change that will support them.
Thank you. James?
Yes, so hi, I'm James Scholes. So I'm just I've been at Paymentshield for about 5 years. I work as a process improvement and change coordinator, and I've been doing that for just over 3 years. I'm responsible for effectively ensuring that any sort of new business changes land smoothly within the operational area. So also part of that might be leading on remedial activities, but primarily trying to identify and improve ways to improve the services that we provide to our customers and brokers.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Liz and James. So could you please share with us about your company? What is critical for your business?
Yeah, so as you said at the start, Alyssa, so Paymentshield is a UK insurance intermediary. So we have 2 sets of customers. We have our policyholders who hold policies with us to insure their homes and their contents or their mortgage payments. And then we have our insurance brokers as well. So I think it's probably about 98% of our business is sold through independent financial advisors, mortgage brokers. So they're our customer base, as well as we need to ensure that we work closely with them to enable them to deliver excellent service to what will be our future customers. So what is critical for our business? So as you alluded to at the start, over the past few years, there's been many changes, and we've all moved to more virtual working, more online. And Paymentshield, up until a couple of years ago, still had their main source of contact with customers was telephone. And what we really want to ensure is that we deliver outstanding customer service. And our mantra, so to speak, is we're absolutely obsessed with customers and making things as easy as possible for them. So we want them to enable them to interact with us how they would want and when they want. And our vision is to provide brilliant, intuitive customer service. And HelpShift was absolutely a cornerstone to enable that vision.
Great, thank you, Liz. And why were you searching for a new solution? What were your biggest pain points before using HelpShift, and what tools were you using?
Yeah, so before HelpShift, we were using phone predominantly and email as well. And we had plans to get a digital presence or go mobile eventually. And our goal is to automate as many customer journeys as possible, so which will allow us to reduce the number of phone calls and contact with agents. But above all, the ultimate goal of that is to make it a flawless customer journey and to get them the right answer as quickly as possible. I think what we were finding is that, you know, people were obviously contacting us by phone, but it was a push. That was their only option. Email, yes, they could do that, but again, it wasn't more of the instantaneous response that customers need now. They could wait up to 5 days for a response, which, you know, absolutely isn't great service, particularly when it comes to something like ensuring your home and your contents, so your personal belongings. One of our sort of core principles is to provide reassurance to customers, and we just weren't able to get that to our customers through the channels and means that they wanted to.
Great. And what made you choose HelpShift over another company? Was there a specific reason?
So we trialed a number of suppliers, and HelpShift really was the one that best suited our needs. So the fact that journeys could be easily built in-house from an operational perspective rather than an IT perspective was hugely appealing. And as was the fact that whilst we are the master of our own destiny, so to speak, the HelpShift team were there and continue to be, supporting and upskilling the team and to support us making what we want to do a reality. So sort of finally, I think whilst the capability and experience is key, the model needs to make good commercial sense, and the pricing models that HelpShift deploy certainly make sure that commercial hurdle is achieved. The fact that we can focus on making the journey the best we can from a customer's perspective without having to worry too much about the pounds and the pence there per journey is liberating, definitely. And it was sort of that further proof that the HelpShift ethos is aligned with our ethos as well. So we were just definitely on the same page when it comes to customer vision, ease, and really that operational side. We are a customer service operational department. We don't want that reliance on IT. We want to be able to have that control to mold and change things when we see fit to do so based on customer.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about your end customer. What are their expectations in terms of support, and how do you deliver?
Yeah, so our end customers are our insurance administrator, so not our insurance administrator, sorry, our insurance mortgage brokers. So our customers, our end customers, which are our clients, and really their expectations are very, very simple. They pay a premium to insure their home and their personal belongings, probably one of the most expensive purchases they will make. And ideally, they don't really want to contact us. It's a must-do job that they have to do, which, you know, nobody's really a fan of having to do our must-do job. So if they need to make a change, for example, they will need to contact us. It's probably a bit of a hassle. So whilst it might be nice to insure, you know, a £10,000 ring, it's nice to have the ring, not necessarily have to contact us to insure it. Same with having to make a claim. So I think if a customer needs to contact us, it needs to be really, really simple, really straightforward, and really, really easy for them to do it. And that's where we find, you know, if there is dissatisfaction, it's likely because it was too difficult for them to do something that they didn't really want to do in the first place. Yeah. You know, it is very unlikely they'll just be calling us for a chat. And our customers aren't going to be versed in the insurance world at all. So they expect us to be clear, concise support, whether that's over the phone, via email, or through web chat now, whatever that conversation is, we need to be absolutely clear on what it is that we do and make sure they understand that. There's also a range of different transactions our customers contact us to complete. So some of these have more self-serve potential than others. So the challenge we have is to maximise one-touch effectiveness. So customers aren't being dragged from pillar to post and have to repeatedly contact us to get the answers they need. So it's definitely that one-touch solution.
Great. And could you just talk us through how your company is currently using HelpShift and how has it impacted your company?
Yeah, I'll take this question, Liz. So we, as we sort of alluded to there, we do have two sort of separate customer bases. So we have our policyholders who have an insurance policy with us, but also our brokers and advisors who sell and submit on behalf of us at Paymentshield. So because of that, we have two separate applications, if you like, two separate chat functions, one for our policyholders, one for our brokers and advisors. And these are accessible at different parts of our website. So as you can see here, this is the view of the policyholders on our main Paymentshield homepage. Each app has about a dozen intent options. So obviously we've got our level ones here, and once clicking into that, it then presents more options for our users to select through. And there's a series of bot flows sitting behind them. So both apps have around about 30 kind of customer-facing, user-facing bot journeys to use. So the information provided in these bot journeys often kind of offers customers sort of general product information, policy information. For example, if they can ask a question in the chat there, they say, is X covered? And it'll then provide them with a bit of support and guidance on that. I'll just see if I can bring up, if I just bring up my page here so we can sort of see what that looks like in real time. Give me 1 second.
Yep, no problem. That'll be great.
So as I said, this is our homepage here. So again, our users can either navigate through the intent options that we presented, and this information has very much been pulled out from the general most common queries that they currently contact us to do, both over the phone, but also through other channels that they use as well. So we can sort of present the user with information directly by selecting these options, but they also have the option to free type a message. And this is where we utilize the FAQ portal that we've got with HelpShift as well. So if a customer, for example, I'm going to put an example in here, they can ask a question straight off the chat and they'll be able to provide them back with a list of either intent options again, so it might bring them back around to that, but at the point where they can skip it, they're then presented with a list of the FAQ articles that we've also created and have in the background. So they work in tandem in line with the bot journeys that we've got as well. So if we select one of the FAQs, the FAQ content is presented within the chat for the user to refer to. And I'd say they get the option to sort of confirm whether that's helped them or not. And in the instance where it hasn't, that's when our bot flows will then be set up in the background to support them. So as I said, these bots have allowed our customers to self-serve. So previously where an agent might need to speak to them over the phone to give them information around making a claim, we can now fully self-serve those journeys. So not only is this offered sort of resource cost savings, it's also enhanced our customer experience, because effectively what this allows us to do is give our customers, our brokers, the answers quickly and efficiently without having to wait in a telephony queue for 10 minutes or wait a couple of days to get a response via email.
And it allows them, thanks James, that was really helpful, I think, and to be able to see it, because it allows a customer in whatever capacity that customer is in to either just go, do you know what, actually, like, let me follow this journey, or actually I just want to type it in what I actually want to get to. So yes, it's self-service, but again, in whichever way the customer might want to do that, because it might be a very simple question to go, do you cover golf clubs? I'll type that in and it will bring up our articles that we have about that. Or likewise, they'll go, actually, I just need to speak to someone because I'm going to take, my query may take a bit of articulation, or I've got a couple that are in tandem. So it just really does provide that solution of, I can do it right here, right now, and I can word that in whichever way I need to get the answer I want to.
Exactly.
And are you now using APIs, for example, for your policy cancellations? Is that done by phone or by app?
Yeah, so we are currently in the process of setting up some APIs just to process other sort of more specific types of queries, such as updating payment details or cancelling policies, by linking that information that's supplied in the chat to our policy admin system. So whilst we're sort of working through that, we have been able to use custom bot flows to sort of basically gather information that customers provide to us, for then these requests to be handed off to an agent to complete. So whilst there is an agent touch point, so while there is a manual intervention required at the end of that request, this is very minimal compared to that when think about a telephone conversation, because what the bot effectively does is does all the heavy lifting, gathers all the information, understands exactly what the customer is requesting, and the agent can then do the do on that right at the end and send that confirmation out. So the APIs are, say, something that we're developing, but even in the interim, we found a really, really effective workaround to ensure that we're getting the most out of it, but also giving our customers the quickest, most efficient support possible.
And this is another reason why we chose to go with HelpShift, is that view of actually we, to be really transparent, we didn't have, during COVID, at the start of COVID, we didn't have the resource for our IT department to support that API build. And actually, we still got from a customer, for 100% from a customer point of view, and definitely business benefit, that the customer doesn't know that there's someone sat behind there doing the do on it after. It appears automated and they still get what they need to from that. And then, as James's point, yes, the resource is hugely reduced because we just have someone at the end of it doing, rather than doing it across, a few hundred phone calls. And it allowed us to really take that sort of two-step approach by going, we can get this in quick, and then our second phase of it is that API build. So actually what appears to be automated from the front can ultimately be automated in the background.
Know a little bit more about how you are using Smart Intents and Help Center 2.0.
Yeah, sure. So obviously the initial sort of help center, which allowed us to sort of present the policyholder and advisor FAQs that we had identified and created as part of the project, part of the release. But using sort of the second version of it, it sort of allowed us to sort of brand it a little bit more and make it a little bit more customer friendly, and sort of add in different sections, different pieces of it, which we found incredibly useful. So if I'm just going to quickly share my screen, I'll sort of show you what that current iteration looks like, because what we've been able to do, sort of utilizing the sort of FAQ pages, particularly the newer version, we've been able to sort of categorize them into relevant sections, but also customize them with some element branding, add a little bit more around sort of our pictures and information, as they say, adding in sort of related articles as well. So a lot of the time when we have a customer asking us a one question, it then quite naturally might sort of evolve into something else. So particularly around cancellations, it then might fall into a query around arrears or missed payments, because a lot of time customers might want to cancel, may have something they need to settle before they do. So what this Help Center 3.0 has allowed us to do is sort of effectively take customers onto, I suppose, a bit more of a journey through the articles to effectively get a fully rounded query answered. And if at the point they do need to speak to an agent, they do obviously have the web chat there. But as I said, what this sort of new one has given us is the ability to search as well, but also redirect them through related articles, and present that information in a really digestible and easy to read sort of format.
Okay. Any examples of Smart Intents and how you're using that?
Yeah, so in terms of sort of how we've used Smart Intents, just to ensure customers are sort of, essentially we try to cover as many customer journeys as possible, particularly broker queries as well. And sort of that gives us the opportunity to maximize sort of the ability to automate. So 89% of our issues that we created with intent were used with intents in November of 2021, for example. And we've seen the CSAT ratings be substantially a lot higher for issues created with intents versus those that were created without intents. So we've sort of seen that as being main reason for that, obviously, is that when we've obviously created those journeys, created those intents, the idea is that we're able to give the customer a really specific, really unique, really comprehensive journey, identify all the different touch points within that journey. Whereas those customers who might be free typing something or not using those intents, or asking a bit more of a niche or somewhat more complicated or complex question, that information obviously might need to go to an agent and might need to be a bit of a longer conversation to get what they need. But those intents, as I said, that have been utilised have been really, really positive.
Yeah, the Smart Intents are really, really helpful, and I think it sort of echoes the point around us being flexible to the customer's needs. So whether they would just want a free type of question because it's something to do with, it's something quite specific where you go, how would I find that on an intent? Or whether they just want to have a bit of a look at our FAQs because they go, I've got a shed, I've got stuff in it, I wonder what I'm covered for under my home insurance. And then the smart intents are that, right, I know I'm an existing customer and I've got a certain course of action I want to take, whether it's a claim, whether I need to make a payment, whether I need to contact you to ask a specific query, I can do that via here. And that's down to very much, our knowledge and understanding of what our customers contact us to do, and very much looking at what are the types of journeys that customers are likely to do through here and putting yourselves in the customer's shoes. If I was a customer, I was coming onto this website, I was then going to click on the chat. How would I want to be directed? Because we need to guide them through that process. And that's what the smart intents are there to do, which is brilliant.
Fantastic. Okay, and by using HelpShift, what improvements did you notice in the productivity or time and cost savings? For example, CSAT, time to first response, time to resolution, price per interaction, percentage of issues automated, etc. Can you share some of those results with us, please?
Yeah, so sorry, Liz.
No, I was going to say, go on. That's
so
fine.
excited. I think the one thing that I particularly took notice of very early on was the real engagement from sort of our agents and our reps. So their satisfaction of using the service and actually providing answers to customers and brokers was really great. So we did have some sort of initial agent feedback sort of via sort of one of our supervisors that they absolutely loved using it right from the get-go, and they were really excited to see a new way of engaging and answering and helping customers. Particularly the fact that they can handle sort of more than one chat at a time. So one thing that we were able to sort of do in terms of how that's helped our productivity time is we have an agent who is handling sort of 2 or 3 chats simultaneously. So going back to a customer with an answer, allowing the customer to digest information and come back to us. And in that sort of occupancy time, being able to then go on to another chat and then help a customer with something else. So as I say, it's not just the customers, but it's also our agents as well. So big win on employee satisfaction. And I would say a lot of the agents who have not yet been trained on the web chat and how to use it are very jealous, and there is a real sort of fight to sort of get access to be part of that sort of web chat support team.
Yeah, and I think the point there you made, James, around the 2 or 3 chats at a time is really, really crucial, and that's one of the many big wins that we've had from this. So if an agent is used to dealing with 100 calls in a day, they can technically deal with 200 to 300 chats. And yes, that's great from a business perspective. And what that then does is frees up those other agents to allow them to have those meaningful, emotive conversations with customers. So the customers who want to contact us by telephone because their query is complex, potentially more emotive, they're not really used to speaking to us, so they'd prefer to have a conversation. It allows the agents time to do that. It also allows them time to go at the customer's pace as well. So you might have one customer who is on the bus on the way to work and they're on the chat and they're getting their answers. That's fine, we can respond. It also allows them to go, right, I'll have my question, I'll ask my question, but I've put my phone down for a minute and I'll come back and I'll pick it up again. The agent can have that chat there. And so it really allows that sort of flexibility and approach, and allows the agents to manage their day. It's very reactive working in a contact center, responding to the demand from the customers, but actually having that flexibility between chats and being able to assess, right, this customer's having a read of that I've just sent them now, let me help this customer here. It really does bring sort of that empowerment to the day as well, and that sense of employee satisfaction. But yeah, mainly that huge productivity saving, being able to handle more than one chat at a time.
Great, some excellent results there. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, and were there any other advantages you discovered after you started using HelpShift?
Other advantages.
I think there was. I think there is many advantages that we discovered. I think probably
I can.
a couple to pull out. I think. Go on, James.
Yeah, well, I know. So I can think of a number. So I think one thing we did find was that we were able to sort of set up the chat to support out of hours. So obviously we have our core business hours within weekdays and the weekends, but we also wanted the option to sort of offer support outside of our normal working hours. So I think about 8 or 9 months after we launched, we realised that we could utilise custom issue fields to effectively split the workflows from chats that come in during our hours, but also then out of our hours. So whilst there might not be an agent to speak to at 2 o'clock in the morning, there are opportunities for us to answer those queries either through deflections or, I say, FAQ articles that we saw there, or even some of the bot flows that sit behind them. And I do actually have an example just to share actually on that, because what it effectively has given us is just an even great opportunity to serve customers who, as I say, might be working all day, and by the time they finish work, they might not be able to contact us, or even for really urgent queries like claims. So in this instance I've brought up here, which obviously is in the HelpShift dashboard, we had a customer sort of come through at sort of 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Now, even though we ourselves are not open or working on a Sunday, by having the chat available during this time, it allowed the customer who wanted to make a claim to go through the relevant bot journey, get the information they needed, and confirm exactly what number they needed to call in order to make that claim. So, as I said, instead of them having to effectively wait to call us on the Monday morning, 24 hours, after an emergency claim might be very detrimental to them, giving them that support there and then was incredibly useful. So that was certainly an advantage that I don't think we realised when we initially launched the chat. And it was only subsequently we found that as being a really, really interesting tool to use.
Yeah, and I can see from that as well, James, that's home emergency as well. So if you put yourself in the customer's shoes, they've had a home emergency, which could be, it's something that is potentially going to make your home uninhabitable in a very short space of time. So it could be a huge water leak, and in that sort of panic, if you've got your phone there and you go, oh, Paymentshield, go on there, you see that chat icon, and you're able to do that in a matter of I don't even want to say minutes, actually, in a matter of 1 minute maybe, to get all that information, allow you to take that next step. That's really, really helpful, rather than trying to, find a telephone number, having to wait on hold, having that natural thing that we all do when we call a company, is that I'm going to be waiting on hold. Will the person answering my phone call be able to help me? Am I going to the right place? They got there what they needed to do quite instantly, which is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. And how does the HelpShift product help your teams or company achieve its objectives?
Yeah, so I was just going to, I think it probably answers both of those questions there, Alyssa, because the one thing that sprung to my mind with advantages, and I know Jane said there was many, but when at the start of the webinar, we spoke a lot about making things easy for customers. So, in everyone's very, very busy lives, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to interact with us. And one of those things that we realised that has both customer benefit and business benefit is allowing our customers to cancel the policy without any direct interaction or speaking to anyone, without any direct sort of conversation around that. And the thing that we sort of didn't realise pre-HelpShift was that having that automated for a customer to do does not increase your cancellation rates. There was quite a worry, I think, by putting through self-service cancellations without any interaction with someone on the phone could mean that more people actually just go, it's easy for me to cancel this, I'll just do it. And actually it did the opposite. It demonstrated that customers who wanted to cancel their policy, there was no retainable interest there from our side. It was, a straight, I don't live in my house anymore. I don't have a home to insure, or actually my contents that I were insuring, I don't have that particular thing anymore. So they need to cancel it. From an agent point of view here, and from a business perspective, there's no retainable interest there. So to have that customer call us, which takes time out of their day, to cancel a policy, to probably them to think, oh, someone's going to try and make me keep this policy when I don't need it. Our agents then go straight away, oh, I know that, this isn't a retainable policy. I can't do anything here to talk to the customer about why they are leaving us. It's a waste, so to speak, for both sides. So actually having the ability to automate that meant that customers could go online and say, I don't need this policy anymore. We give them the option to say, did you want to talk to someone about this? Is it a pricing issue? Are you unsure if you cover it? Is there anything we can do to help you stay with us? No, I don't need that. It's giving our customers that choice to make that decision rather than being forced into that pot of people. And that's allowed our retention results to actually improve. And our volume of retentions has not increased since doing that, which is really sort of revolutionary for the industry, and allows us to really lead the way with that, and a great example of how do things that are easy for your customers.
Great, excellent. Was there anything you wanted to add, James?
I think, and Liz sort of echoed it there, but I think what it has done, coming back to sort of making that journey, or what the customer is asking, as smooth the process as possible, particularly from a very business point of view, but from obviously their own personal point of view, is having that ability to basically provide that self-serve capability. So we sort of touched on the cancellation journey there, but also, as we've seen, customers who wanted to make a claim or discuss something with us, being able to give them that information there and then. I mean, just in 2021, we were able to sort of fully automate over 3,000 customers who were trying to make a claim on their policy. So that saved, say, effectively our business, or 340 hours of operational resource, which we could then apply onto those types of queries that where customers need a bit more support. We're able to give a bit more support to our vulnerable customers, for example. And I think also thinking about how we've tried to adapt to the shift in customer contact preference, particularly over COVID. When we did release the chat back in July of 2020, we sort of the overall contact that the web chat made up was about 12%. But looking at the end of last year, as the chat has managed to evolve and we've managed to implement more and more solutions, and as I say, we're trying to get to that self-serve capability. That's what I say effectively the objective at the moment. That overall contact's up to 36%. So it's more than, it's effectively trebled in a matter of 18 months, which is fantastic to sort of see how we're evolving into that space, and how sort of HelpShift and the web chat's been able to let us do that.
Great, some excellent results there. And can you talk us through a little bit about the implementation? How did it go, and how is it to use the HelpShift tool, and how long did it take you to get started with HelpShift?
Yeah, I think probably James and I have both got some answers to this that I think probably slightly different spin on each as well. So we went live at the end of June in 2020, and from that was sort of the height of COVID time as well. And as we mentioned at the start, one of the things that I think echoes the ease of using HelpShift is that in March 2020, as a lot of businesses did, and everyone to work from home, we didn't have the ability to work from home. The majority of colleagues in our company didn't have a laptop. We'd not really used Teams or Zoom very much before. Lots of people had children at home. It was a very, very difficult time for everyone. So the fact that we managed to get what is our first online channel deployed during that time is absolutely not just outstanding for Paymentshield and the business, and shows that that great collaborative approach, but also that it was straightforward. Yes, there's teeth and things along the way that you learn, but it was straightforward and really, really easy to do, that allowed us to get to that point where we were saying we need to do this, particularly because of the situation we find ourselves in now. So time to deploy, I think, was about a month, wasn't it, James?
Yeah, I think maybe 5 weeks if I'm being really overly critical. But yeah, it was a very quick turnaround, particularly because it was very much brand new sort of territory for Paymentshield, to sort of go from a sort of standing start to sort of then a release of effectively that policyholder web chat. It was a really quick turnaround. I think the only thing I was going to add there would be, part of that quick turnaround that we were able to get was because we did have that support from HelpShift throughout. So I myself was sort of leading on the creation and development of what the chat would look like, and obviously what information would be encased within those kind of bot flows, in those bot journeys. But as not being very technical, having that sort of constant sort of support to sort of guide me through some solutions and workarounds to question ideas that we had sort of throughout those sort of 4 to 5 weeks was invaluable. We were able to effectively go live not only with something, but something that was all straight away going to give us the benefit, or at least start to see that benefit and that quality of service, say right from the get-go. So that was the only thing that I was going to add on that.
Yeah, it was really sort of straightforward, and James and I have slightly separate or different, I should say, roles on the project. So I think from in the detail, learning how to do it, understanding how the processes work. James, I know that was brilliant. And then from my point of view around like how the project to set up was run was really, really easy, really straightforward. HelpShift definitely were aligned in sort of our structure around, when this lands, we need it to work well, and this is what we want from it. And it was very, all our conversations were very engaging and very understanding what our needs were, and they generally aligned as well. So it made that sort of, oh, we haven't done this before, but you're the experts, help us, really, really easy. And sort of that working together, that collaborative approach was excellent, even with all the difficulties that everyone found themselves in during that time.
Excellent. Well, I'm pleased to hear that the onboarding was such a positive experience and ran smoothly. Let's look at some of the results then that you've realized by using HelpShift. So what improvements did you notice in productivity or time and cost savings?
Yeah, I can take this, Liz. So as I said, that we very much sort of see an impact straight away. So when I just look at sort of the first week out from when we implemented the chat, we already had sort of 500 chat requests come through, and 92% of them were used. Basically used the smart intents that we saw there around the actual specific bot flows that we created to sort of direct and provide the information to our users, to our customers. And of those, I say 82% were fully automated. So it was only 18% of that 500 that effectively needed to speak to an agent. So we were already seeing a really, really quick and efficient way to give that information and get the customer to come in, ask the question, get the answer, and then go away with it. So that was incredibly useful. And I think of the chats that we sort of did have assigned to agents, we already started to see a really high sort of satisfaction, CSAT satisfaction score. And that was because the agents were able to effectively present the information that might have already been presented within a bot flow, or even just tailor it to what their expertise and give the answer there and then as well. So the journey throughout was incredibly smooth, and that's demonstrated, as I said, by the really high CSAT scores that we started to see from week one. And again, as I touched on, even just looking a bit sort of closer to now, as we've managed to implement new processes, new journeys within the web chat, whilst the percentage of the total inquiries for kind of automated chats has increased, that's counteracted by the fact that we're using the bots as more information gathering. So if we do need to speak to a customer, we're not sort of hiding away from that. We're just basically maximizing the bot to sort of, as they do all that heavy lifting, do that information gathering. So at the point where it comes to the agent or the user on the other end, they can just basically provide that information as quickly as possible. So again, CSAT scores on that have continued to sort of rise and increase, and we still see that fully automated benefit. So that just continues month on month.
Excellent. And what do you love about the HelpShift product, and how is it to work with the HelpShift team?
Go on.
I think we've both got things to say on this, haven't we, James? Yeah. So I think for me, one of the main things that I spoke about earlier is that we have that freedom to update, change, amend journeys and flows, and we're empowered to make these changes to improve the service. So it's not something that we necessarily need to engage HelpShift with. However, if we did engage with them for support, that would be extremely forthcoming. And I think just that if you work in customer services and, you know, in that operational department, you want that control to do it for your customers. You don't want to have that IT handoff. And I think to be able to do that and to do it easily is one of the one of the many things I think that I love about using HelpShift.
Yeah, 100%. One thing that I particularly found really really refreshing was just throughout my time sort of working closely was a lot of the time I would ask very silly questions, very stupid questions to the tech team, and they would come back to me with some very simple answers, and I would apologize for wasting their time. But there were features and things that would come up through kind of feedback from our agents, or even from looking through some of the comments left by our customers after using the chat, feature requests that we have then sort of presented to the HelpShift tech team to look at. So these have been, you know, really well received, and any suggestions that we do come up with, which might be just sort of make something a little bit flexible, or be able to change something that we couldn't, has been added to what's the kind of HelpShift change work slate. So I know they have a kind of a change team that works to look at sort of all those requests and sort of categorize them. And there's an example I can think of something that we did ask for that has been implemented just from that, which is fantastic, which is sort of in our FAQs page. Well, although we can display the FAQs in this format, we were trying to get a read of how useful, how effective has that each FAQ been, so we can get a bit of a tally for customers who have found that useful or not, and then we can identify if we need to make any improvements to the information that's being presented. And you can see that sort of an article helpful button here is available to the users now, so we're able to sort of track how helpful an article is, pull out the most successful ones and the least successful ones, and that gives us a really useful read on what do we need to look at in terms of the FAQs that aren't giving the customers the help that we want them to give them. So yeah, as I said, going back to that, having that really creative sort of I suppose the collaboration really with anything that we're finding that we think might improve or enhance the service for ourselves, and sharing that with HelpShift, we always get from really positive and really engaging responses. And I said we're able to evidence that by some of the things that they've already done for us, which is fantastic.
Brilliant. And our final question before we move on to the Q&A session: do you have any stories to share about a fantastic customer interaction?
The one I'll take this because it was one I was thinking of actually earlier as we were talking. It was a couple of months ago. We had a customer who was it was an elderly customer who was very hard of hearing, and they'd repeatedly sort of contact us around a certain query over a number of years, and obviously because they were quite elderly, they were using that information and having to sort of repeat it back to them. But by having the web chat there, they wanted to make a change to her insurance policy. So although the interaction was sort of longer over the web chat when they actually wanted to make a change to their policy, because, as I said, they were able to read the information and digest it at their own pace and not have to effectively listen to it through a telephone, she was able to get the support and the information that she needed. So, as I said, we got some really lovely sort of comments somewhere around the fact that she was really grateful that instead of having to call to do something, we can now facilitate those kind of requests through this web chat function. So I think it just very much draws on the support that we've been able to give, I suppose, customers who may have potential vulnerabilities, and offering that solution sort of go, we're no longer just sort of a phone call is the answer. We do have other strings to our bow now, which are really helping those customers who, as I said, in this instance, was hard of hearing. So that was a really rewarding sort of interaction, I think, from say something again without having web chat, we never would have been able to help that customer in the way that we have there. So that was really, really lovely.
I think that's a really good example, James, and I think it also reminds us all that yes, there's huge business benefit to this and customer benefit from having another self-serve channel, another channel of contact. Whether you're a mortgage broker to get your questions answered quickly, I've got a customer here, can you remind me what this is? Or whether you're a customer who just wants to interact that way, but actually allowing customers who may have some additional needs or requirements when they contact us, to do it in the way they want to is an absolute huge benefit, and something that's, you know, very much a hot topic, so to say, within the industry at the moment, is what can businesses do to help people who have those additional needs when they contact us, and whether that is they are hard of hearing and actually contacting us by phone isn't great for them and they prefer to do it on a chatbot service, or whether it's that actually their preferred method of contact, for whatever reason, it's just they would prefer to do it that way. It's easier for them to understand the information, easier for them to digest it. So it really, really enables us to do that as a business as well, which is part, you know, one of our core principles around being able to service customers and whatever needs you may have, whether, you know, you work for a different insurance company and you're fully up to speed on insurance and you just want to understand if we cover this, but you don't need anything else about it. Or if you have very, very limited background in insurance and, you know, need that reassurance that I've got this product, I don't really know what it is, and I'd prefer to get that through a chat functionality or to chat to someone rather than being on the phone, it enables that as well. So it's a really, it really does tick all those boxes, which is fantastic.
Excellent, some fantastic examples there. Okay, well, thank you so much, Liz and James. Let's move on to the Q&A questions. Let's look at, we've got quite a few questions, so we probably won't have time to get through all of these, but let's see how many of these we can get through. So the first question is regarding top 3 recommendations for someone who is just starting with HelpShift or is interested in deploying HelpShift. So what would be your top 3 recommendations?
Sorry, go on, Liz.
I'll say one.
Go on.
We've probably got quite a few, and these are all sort of probably like learning curves I think we've been through, but definitely get your frontline teams involved in using it early on. It's very, very easy to navigate, as we've said, and for, you know, us non-tech people, mainly me and not James, it's very, very simple and straightforward to use. But also your agents are the ones who do the day-to-day interaction. And actually, me and James sat there building journeys and implementing them. Get your frontline teams involved to do it, because they'll tell you, you know, what sort of canned responses you may want, i.e. an automated bot, or they'll tell you which ones actually I want to put that in my own words. So it's really empowered them as well, rather than just being given a process to follow like they normally are, to actually be involved in that, and us to say, we want your view on this, but how do you feel interacting on it? Because it's new to them as well, because they've gone from the, you know, sort of 7 hours a day verbal interaction to now more written communication.
Yeah, I say I can think of sort of 500 different recommendations in terms of when someone's starting off. And I said it's very much learned by doing. But one of the things that I certainly I took real enjoyment in was just getting hands-on with, particularly making or creating some of the content. So whether that was the FAQs or even the bot flows, just taking the time to sort of have a play around and see what works, see what doesn't. And sort of, as I say, they go through a number of different iterations. I think when we were initially mocking up these flows and mocking up what the journeys were going to say, how we were going to branch them off to different places. So one of my recommendations would certainly be sort of get hands on and have a real fun playing around with that, because I say it was really, really useful. And not dissimilar to that, I was going to add that make use of the support articles. So sort of within the dashboard, but also in other locations as well. There's a number of different support articles that are there as guides to help navigate to different parts, or whether it's kind of reporting out on some of the API conversations or reporting out some of the analytics reporting. The support articles are available all within the dashboard. You can navigate through there, and they're always really, really helpful. But also the support team are always very responsive as well. So whenever I've had a quick question that I've not been able to find the answer in there, you know, basically exploiting their knowledge was also something that was I can definitely recommend doing, because it allowed us to really progress very quickly, as I said, from a standing start.
Great. And we've got quite a few more questions in the chat window. So let me take the next question from one of the webinar attendees. And could you provide some examples of ideas and suggestions that your frontline teams were able to make? Were your agents giving ideas and suggestions on how to better respond to certain issues?
I can take this, Liz. So when we sort of released the chat initially, as I said, because we got our agents involved very early on within sort of the development and the growth of it, they were very felt very empowered by sort of using it. It sort of gave them real confidence, sort of identify and address any thoughts or suggestions they had to make things better, whether it's for the customer or for them receiving the chats into the dashboard for them to sort of handle. One of the things specifically that we were able to get from the very on was because it was such a collaborative project, we sort of allowed them to feed their thoughts in on a sort of a daily and weekly basis. So we'd have stand-up catch-ups. One of the things we did implement off the back of their thoughts and feedback was the adding in of sections for kind of quick replies. And again, I'm happy to share my screen and show what this looks like, to be honest, because it was very useful. And I think it'll give a bit of context. If you just bear with me 1 second, I'll do that. Where are we?
And as we said, the agents are the best people to speak to about it and generally have the best ideas, as they're the ones doing the doing, follow through on those, company values that we have about customer first. They're not going to carry on doing a process that is clunky for them and clunky for the customer. So actually getting their ideas and thoughts on that has been invaluable.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it's been really useful. We've continued to sort of grow and evolve as we've gone along with the different stages of sort of the iterations and the project as it sort of grows. But I said, sort of looking at the quick replies, that we found that there was information that an agent was having to sort of type out manually quite frequently. So when we think about, we had a standard flow of a conversation, we'd have to go through I, D, and V to clarify and confirm we're speaking to the right person. And again, part of obviously, instead of having to repeat, constantly having to type out the information, asking those customers questions, using the quick replies feature, we're able to effectively pre-populate some of the information for them. So when they have a chat and they're going through that, they can sort of navigate through here, select the option and submit it, and the question is then populated in the chat and is then read by the customer, and they can then come back to us. So we found that sort of adding that new content is so easy, and once we sort of created and it was accessed by the agents immediately, so there was no sort of loading time or waiting time to sort of implement that. We could do it as and when we wanted to, and it's continued to evolve, as I said. So as we've sort of implemented new different sort of different queries or servicing different queries in here, we've added more and more sort of chat options, so you can sort of see there's a huge list to work through. But again, the content might be around regulatory information, or, as I said, could just be general information that's just asked quite regularly in the chat. Having this functionality to allow agents to select this information instead of them to sort of sit there and be a keyboard warrior, as I said, has made things a lot easier for them. And that was to say one of the big things that they addressed early on when they sort of raised it to us, which was fantastic.
Brilliant. That's great. Another question from one of the webinar attendees is regarding smart intents and specifically CSAT. Did you notice any difference in CSAT when using smart intents versus when smart intents was not used?
Again, I can take this, Liz, if you like. I think what we were able to do very early on was, as I said, we saw the smart intents before, but we were able to sort of pinpoint sort of the common threads or the common themes of why a customer contacts us in the first place. So when we sort of did offer those smart intents, we very much wanted them to be front and center and to be used. And what we did find was that issues that were created with intents, or one of those intents that was selected, we got a much higher sort of CSAT rating. So I think we got 3.62, and that's versus the 3.02 that we saw when an issue was created without an intent being selected, which sort of meant that if the customer's free typing something, they were less likely to get what they needed. So a customer who's actually gone through those intents and specifically got the information they need from effectively what they've selected. So that smart intimation has sort of certainly really useful. It's helping and sort of satisfying our customers. And again, that sort of that kind of smart intent usage has continued to rise. So I think it started off as being initially sort of 85% of our chats were used with smart intents. It's now gone sort of 92, 93%. So the more sort of efficient and effective we make those smart intents, the better service we can give them, and the more let's say more accurate information we can give them as well to sort of get them where they need to be.
And I think based on the CSAT stuff as well, we've done our sort of main focus at the moment is around customer satisfaction scores, and we really stay on top of that, and it's allowed us to implement change in line with what the customer is feeding back, and then we do see a marked increase in our CSAT scores month on month. So you know, to James's points then around the difference in CSAT scores using smart intents or not, we'll continually review them on an individual basis and say, right, what are the key themes coming through? What are customers say that they want to do that they can't? What journeys are they providing low scores on, and why? Let's review that journey and really put ourselves in the customer's shoes to understand why. We do that very frequently. Update, change the journey, see what the result is. And then we can see that increased in our CSAT scores. And again, that's just one of the great things about using HelpShift, is that we can go on there, we can do that, we can implement that, and then we can monitor it immediately. And we can also pull it back if we've decided it's not the right thing. So we've got, right, let's change this journey. And then we go, oh, actually, that's not great, actually. Something's gone wrong here. Let's just pull it back and revisit that. So it's really easy to do that, and really allows us to be very reactive and proactive to our customers' needs, which is fantastic.
Excellent. And I think we have time for one more Q&A question. The final question is, how is it to work with HelpShift as a vendor?
Yes, so I don't mind answering that. I'm sure, James, you've probably got some input as well. So I think when you work with a new vendor, particularly on something that is new to the business, is very high profile from the business, you do have that sort of nervousness, I suppose, around, right, actually, is this going to be as good as we've had the conversations before we've exchanged money, so to speak? And I can absolutely say that is the case. HelpShift service has been, in a word, probably extremely consistent. So the service we had on day one, when we initially started the conversations around using them, to the service that we received today, has been brilliant. There is always someone on hand to help, and as James said before, ask those questions where HelpShift probably have very similar questions from other people and probably know it like the back of the hand, but we don't. And it's explained to us in a way that makes sense, that it's easy. The offer of further support is always available. Our ideas are always put forward, happily put forward. And I think for me, working in a company where this is very, a high profile change that we've done, and a cost to the business, that the service that you get from that vendor is absolutely crucial. Even if HelpShift product was just as good, but the actual service as a vendor wasn't, that would put into question our sort of relationship that we have, our working relationship. But the service has been absolutely second to none. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, again, I'll echo what Liz said. So collaboration is very much key with HelpShift from what I've found. So I think regardless of what position that you'd be in, whether you would have experience using web chat interactions or how they would work, as I said, we came into it completely brand new and fresh. The support I got was specifically tailored so I could understand the basics first and foremost, and then I've sort of had that confidence then to branch out and learn the more detailed aspects of sort of how the chat works, again, having conversations around APIs, understanding how the reporting works. So that was one thing that I've always found with sort of working with HelpShift as a vendor, was that there was always that guidance and support needed. And it was, as I said, it felt very much tailored to me. And I say I was very lucky, and I was able to get that guidance throughout, and still do.
And what I really like as well is when we have our review meetings, they are focused very much on the go forward. The team are always extremely well prepared. The stats that they provide us are extremely interesting and insightful, and it's not just data on a page. It's like, this is what it's telling us, this is what it looks like we could do, or this is what we think you should do. And it's very, very driven from them as well. We've not been sort of left to our own devices, so to speak, to work it out ourselves and go, right, is that good? Is it not? We get that comparison. And so those conversations are extremely useful. And again, although we have those on a regular basis, those sort of more relationship meetings, and looking at how we're performing and how Helpshift is performing, for us as a business, I think we probably speak quite often anyway. So it always feels like we're very regularly in touch, and we're made to feel like a very, very valued customer.
Excellent. Thank you so much for all your feedback today, Liz and James, and for sharing the Paymentshield story with us. I think that's all we've got time for today. To any attendee whose question we didn't have time to respond to today, we will be getting back to you via email. And let me just finally, before we wrap up, let me just share my screen with a QR code for the free trial. So if you are interested in experiencing the power of Helpshift, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial, and here is a QR code that you can use for that purpose. And that's it for today. Thank you again, Liz and James, and I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.